Hi guys, welcome to this video on smart goal setting in sport. In this video, we're going to think about aims and objectives and goals and the difference between those things. We'll talk about goal setting itself, why it's important, why it's helpful, and then we'll take a bit of time to focus in on the acronym SMART, which is a way of setting goals that are actually actionable and useful for us. Let's get started. So at the outset of this video, I just want to define some terms. I want to define the terms aims, objectives, and goals, because we often hear these terms used interchangeably and a little bit imprecisely, but I think it's important for me to be clear what I mean by these terms. So first off, it's important to point out that I'm using these terms as different terms. They mean different things. They're not synonyms. They actually mean different things. So when it comes to an aim, what I want to suggest an aim is that the aim is the overall thing we're looking to achieve. And that can be relatively vague. It could be, I want to get fit. That would be a pretty loose, vague aim, and that's okay as an aim. But it's not great in terms of motivating for performance or motivating for training or motivating for the day-to-day activities that you do as a sports person. It might be that your aim could be to get into the Olympics, something like that. That's a legitimate aim. It's a fair enough aim. But it doesn't really give you much to go on in terms of what to do in order to get there. So the aim can be kind of a little bit vague, a little bit loose, kind of quite aspirational. But then in order to get there, what you need to do is you need to identify objectives. So the objectives will be steps along the way, and the aim may be, conceptually, it may be a long way away from you. It may be years before you get to that point, or it might be not so far away. But in any case, you need to identify the steps that you're going to take in order to get to your overall target, your overall aim. So your objectives will be the small, moment by moment, maybe day by day or week by week activities, the things that you're actually going to do that will take you towards your overall aim. Now, a goal is slightly different. It does relate to these things, but a goal is slightly different. A goal is, if we continue the analogy of a journey, the goal can be considered almost like a checkpoint. So it may be that on the journey towards your aim, you need to set yourself some checkpoints, some ways of knowing you're heading in the right direction. So you might set yourself some goals. And each goal may require you to take or to meet a series of objectives. But overall progress from one goal to the next should be leading towards your aim overall. And so this video is really about how to set effective goals using SMART, which we'll come to in a moment, how to set effective goals that includes a series of objectives, but overall will lead you towards your aim. So that's my analogy. As a journey, the aim is the destination. The objective is the steps that you take towards that destination, but the goals are landmarks or checkpoints along the way so that you can be sure you're heading in the right direction. So let's think about why it's important to set goals. So there's several reasons why we might want to goal set and why we might want to think carefully about how we do it. Just four fairly basic ones to begin with. The first thing is that it focuses your effort. If you've got a goal to work towards, you can then channel your effort, and make sure that you're meeting the objectives that take you to that goal. So it focuses effort. That's the first thing. Secondly, it's clear that you're progressing. If you've set your goals adequately, and if we go back to the analogy we've just talked about, if you know where your checkpoints are and you know that those checkpoints ultimately will take you to your destination, then you can see that you're actually making progress. So a well-set goal is really helpful in terms of knowing that you're progressing. Also, it captures success. If you set goals and you meet them in the time frame that you've allotted for meeting those goals and so on, you can see that you're being successful. And the thing about effort and progress and success, all of these things, if you can meet goals as you intend to meet them, you hit them on the day you're supposed to hit them or there or thereabouts, all of those things can have a really big impact on your motivation. So goal setting, really the heart of goal setting or the purpose of goal setting is that it motivates really effectively. And if you can set goals that are sufficiently challenging but not so difficult that they're impossible, and they're heading in the right direction, the goals are well thought through, then actually it can be a really strong motivator for you to perform and to continue and to stick at something. So let's talk about the acronym SMART. So SMART is one of the most commonly used ways for setting effective goals. And it's an acronym, so each of the letters stands for something. So the S stands for specific. The M for measurable, the A for achievable, the R for relevant, and the T for time bound. Now you may have seen slightly different wordings on some of these, but I think this version of it is probably most helpful when we're talking about sport. So it's got to be specific. Your goal has got to be specific. It's got to be measurable. It's got to be achievable. It's got to be relevant, and it's got to be time bound. So what do we mean by each of these things? Well, in terms of specific, your goal needs to state exactly what needs to be done, exactly what needs to be achieved for that goal to be ticked off. So that you know you're heading in the right direction. It's different to an aim in that sense, therefore, that an aim can be, as we've said already, a little bit vague, a little bit woolly, but a goal cannot be. A goal has to be absolutely exact as to what it is you're trying to achieve. And so therefore, it also needs to be measurable, which means that it has to have clear success criteria. You have to know if you've hit the goal. If it's not obvious that you've actually met the target, if you've not actually met the goal, then you can't tick it off and move on. There has to be a clear success criteria to say, yes, my goal has been to reach this number of minutes for this activity, or to lift this amount of weight, or to complete this activity in this amount of time. There has to be exact, specific success criteria so that you know whether or not you've hit your goal. If it's vague, then you will never know if you've hit your goal, and then you'll lose all those benefits we talked about in terms of motivation and so on, because you won't be absolutely certain that you're progressing. So we're looking for some kind of certainty that we're heading in the right direction. Another important feature, and in fact this is very important, is that goal has to be achievable. That means it realistically, from where you are right now, what's realistically attainable for you. So if you set yourself an absolutely ludicrous goal, then you are not going to be motivated to try and achieve that goal. It's not attainable. It's just not realistic. And it may be that your aim is aspirational, and that's great, and that's probably how it should be. But the goals that you set yourself on the way to your aim should be realistically attainable within the time frame that you give yourself. And we'll come to that in just a sec, as you can see. So it's got to be realistically attainable. Also, it really needs to be relevant. That is, it needs to be something that you want to do. You can understand the reasoning for why you want to hit that goal. You understand the importance perhaps of that particular achievement on the way to your overall aim. It may even be something that the goal itself may be something that you're not too keen on achieving, but you know that you have to hit that goal in order to get to the aim that you are keen on achieving. Which is why people put themselves through, training regimes that are really hard and really tough, even though they might not enjoy that particular thing. Maybe you're a runner and you do some gym work. You may hate the gym work, but because it's for something else, because it's a goal on your way to something else, because it aligns with your values, it aligns with your overall aims, then it's relevant, and therefore you'd be motivated to do something that under other circumstances you might not want to do. So if you can align your goal with your overall aim, that's a really strong motivator. And then, of course, finally, you need to give yourself some kind of date for hitting that goal. So you don't want to just say, oh, I'll get round to it at some point. This is what I want to achieve. It can be a specific, measurable, achievable, relevant goal, but, I'll get round to it at some point. And as we all know, our human nature, if you've got a long deadline, most of us will wait until the deadline is looming before we'll actually get around to something. So if we have to set ourselves dates for completion of each of our goals, that also can help us stick to our goals, adhere to what we're trying to achieve, and move us on. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So let's just have a quick look at what this might look like in practice. So let's do an example here. Let's say that somebody comes to you and says, I've got an overall aim. My aim is to get fit. I want to get fit, and that's okay as an aim. That's a reasonable aim. That's an acceptable aim. But your first question to somebody who said to you, "I want to get fit," if you're responsible for setting some goals for them, you would want to know, well, how are we going to get there? What's the next thing to do? What's the next step? So you would need to therefore set a SMART goal, and I want to suggest this as an example of a SMART goal. In 10 weeks from today, I want to be able to jog without stopping for 20 minutes. I will do this by training 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, and I will use an app to record my progress. I want to be able to join my best friend who already jogs regularly. So I suggest that's a good goal. That's a SMART goal. It's specific because we've got an amount of time. So it's specific. We want to jog without stopping. That's measurable. 20 minutes is measurable. So it's specific, it's measurable. We're clear that we're talking about jogging, not sprinting. We're talking about jogging, not something else. It's specific and measurable. Is it achievable? Well, obviously that depends on who the person is you've got in the back of your mind for this goal. But I'm suggesting it's somebody who's relatively sedentary and wants to take up a bit of jogging, doesn't really do it much at all. So with somebody like that in mind, then this is achievable. It's an achievable goal. 20 minutes without stopping is not an outrageous goal. I've not set them the goal of running a marathon within 10 weeks or anything like that. It's a perfectly achievable goal to jog for 20 minutes. So that's ideal. And it's achievable in that I've decided that this person has 3 days a week available to them. And they're going to record their progress as well. So that's going to help them in terms of measuring their goal. So it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, and it's relevant. And the relevance comes in this last statement here as that why is this person wants to achieve this particular goal. So why do they want to do it? Because they want to join their best friend. That gives the value, that gives the reason, that explains the aim, that shows how the goal links to the overall aim. And it's time bound because I've said that it's going to be in 10 weeks from today. So we've gone from quite a woolly aim, I want to get fit, to being really specific, measurable, achievable. It's relevant and it's time bound. So that might be how you might construct a SMART goal. Now, obviously, the steps towards that SMART goal, those objectives that we talked about, would be the objectives that you might have for each individual jog. So your objectives might be broken down even smaller into those small steps that help that person move towards that goal. So you might have an objective for each session, for example. But that's not the focus of this video. The SMART goal is the checkpoint on the way to your overall aim. Well, I hope that's been helpful to you. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you'll get notified when I upload more of these sorts of videos. In the meantime, any questions or comments, please put them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Take care for now.